Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those that are stopping by for the first time, I hope you stick around because we share valuable information in this channel. My name is Elizabeth. I live in the city of Regina in Saskatchewan province, and I make videos about immigration, about travels, recipes, family and lifestyle. I do hope that you stick around and benefit from the information we share. In today's video, I'll be talking about the cultural differences, Nigeria versus Canada. This is my personal perspective. So let's go straight into the video. So I, myself and my family, we've had the privilege of calling Canada home for the past 2 years. We remain grateful to Canada for their flexibility in their immigration policies and processes in comparison to other countries. So I can confidently share my perspective when it comes to cultural differences between Canada and Nigeria, where I originally came from, and Canada, where I currently reside with my family. So first on my list will be education. Let's take Canadian education for instance. So Canada education is free, but it is paid by taxpayers from kindergarten to elementary school, high school. They are practically free, paid with taxpayers' money. And the standard is the same for both the public, the Catholic, and the private schools. So the curriculum is the same. So they have a uniform curriculum. And education in Canada ranks very high globally. So children in Canada attend kindergarten at a tender age, at the age of 4 or 5. By choice, which is subsidized heavily by the government. After that, school becomes mandatory for grade elementary schools, starting from the age of 6 upwards to 16. School becomes very mandatory. So depending on the province of Canada that you live, school can go up to either age, generally until the age of 16 or so, grade 11 to 12. And this is entirely free, paid with taxpayers' money. So Canada invests a lot in their public schools, more than any other G7 countries I know. And in addition, the professionals, the teachers, and everybody working in these schools are invested in and held to a high standard in Canada. The requirement is always very stiff. So the teachers must have been a graduate of a university and have practiced for 1 year, practical experience. So that they have the minimum requisite experience and requirement to function as a teacher in most of these schools. That is why Canadian schools are ranked, school system is ranked high globally. Let's take Nigerian education. The formula for Nigerian education system is the 6334 system, where 3 years in junior secondary school, and then the next 3 years of senior secondary school. Then the 4 years is the 4 years of graduate education in the university. Sometimes it could extend more than 4 years. So that is what they mean by 6334 system. 6 years in primary school, the first 3 years in junior secondary school, 3 other senior years in secondary school, then 4 years in the university. And education is not free in Nigeria, right from the kindergarten or preschool education. So most times, depending on your choice as a parent or family, you can spend almost all your earnings in education at that level, not even university level. And the school curriculum in Nigeria, they are not uniform. You will see private schools adopting a British curriculum. You will see other schools by choice, you know, a matter of it's like fashionable for schools to, it's like schools have the liberty to incorporate the acceptable curriculum with, or merge it with other curriculums of their choice. So private schools, public schools, and government schools, they are not, the curriculum, they are not uniformed. We also have private schools for the rich and another set of private school for the extremely rich. Then we have the public school for the average Nigerian. And we have sometimes no schools at all for some regions in Nigeria. Children just wake up and they do not have direction. Funding remains one of the major problems in Nigerian schools or Nigerian education system. Lack of governance and accountability remains a bane in Nigerian education system. Interruption of academic calendars due to frequent strikes remain a major problem in Nigerian schools. That is why Canada, UK, and other countries remain destination of choice for students mostly. So let's move to the second reason why the cultural difference is Nigeria versus Canada. Let's talk about the credit system, cash versus credit system. So in Canada, the financial system or the financial topography is different from Nigerian financial system. Taxes, credit card, student loan, mortgages are almost new knowledge. So Canada operates a credit system while Nigeria operates a cash system. I will explain that. In Canada, you can go on weeks without cash in your pocket and you will still transact and live comfortably and make your purchases. But in Nigeria, you have to carry heavy cash. You have to carry cash from point A to B to transact most times, because some people may not just buy the idea of you doing transfers and all that. So they need cash. In Canada, taxes are deducted at source for employees and reported between February to April as taxes to government. Why businesses do not get taxed at source, but then they have the window to report their business expenses from early as February or March to June the next year. In Nigeria, taxes for employees, just like Canada, they are deducted at source. But that is it. You do not do any reporting, tax reporting or tax filing the subsequent year. But in some states, they could give you tax clearance certificates or cards to show that you are a taxpayer. But in Canada, once your taxes are deducted at source as an employee, the next year you will report your earnings or your total household income and then get some rebates or refund from government. In Nigeria, businesses do get taxed sometimes. Most businesses do get taxed, but it all depends on integrity and honesty, and it depends also, it varies from one state to state. Some businesses do not get to pay tax and do not report any tax, no tax obligation. So you can see the differences between these two countries when it comes to tax. In Canada, we pay what is called general sales tax, GST, and HST. And sometimes quarterly or so we get refunded some money by the government. But this is not so in Nigeria. So when you go to shops and you see a dress with the tag $10, chances are you may just pay slightly above $10 at checkout. You may pay plus the tax rate in that state or province. But in Nigeria, when you see a $10 shirt, it is $10 you check out. So what you see is what you get. So these are two different dynamics between these two countries. In Canada, credit cards are issued at will and voluntarily to residents, and you are encouraged to use credit cards. And most of your businesses and transactions will depend on your credit score ratings and your ability to be disciplined to pay your debts on time. So that is why Canada is a credit system. So in Canada is a system of trust. The responsibility lies with the credit card recipient or beneficiary to pay promptly the debts incurred on those cards and build integrity and trust. But in Nigeria, there is no credit card system in place. Individuals pay cash for every purchases. Either you pay cash or you pay with your debit card. You must have money, otherwise you are not going home with, you are not walking away with those goods you purchased. In Nigeria, loans and lines of credit are only made available to big organizations or politicians or people of high, people that are popular. It is not for an average Nigerian. Sometimes those politicians may not need this line of credit and loans. Sometimes those organizations may not need them. The average Nigerian that need those loans and credit cards are not given the opportunity to have one. In Canada, students' loans are made available to students once you meet certain criteria or requirements. There are minimum requirements So you can access these loans and complete your education and start earning a living. And then you have a flexible payment arrangement that could range from 5 years, 10 years to 20 years. But in Nigeria, those opportunities are not given to ordinary Nigerians to go to school, acquire knowledge, acquire certifications, and pay. So no trust. Unless things have changed. For the past 2 years I left Nigeria, there are no school loans, student loans available for students that would otherwise want to go to school but have no financial capacity to do so. Let's talk about mortgage. In Canada, it's easy to buy your first home, second home as an immigrant or even as a resident because there's a system of trust where once you meet the minimum requirement, you get mortgage approvals, and you can deposit as low as 5%, 10%, 20% or more depending on your ability, and you become a homeowner and move into your home and pay gradually until you finish payment. Lending interest is determined by the government here, so it remains stable and are reviewed from month to month or quarterly, as the case may be in Canada. Through this arrangement, many people have had the privilege within their 1 year, 6 months, 18 months of landing in Canada to own their home for the first time in their lives in Canada. Government also supports first home owners with grants and rebates, which gingers, or motivate them to own homes. But in Nigeria, buying a home can be a bit complex. Usually, individuals buying their first home will have to have a relationship with banks that translate to buying a home. Interest rates are not uniform and differ from one bank to the other, or depends on your negotiating power with these banks. So this is the difference between Canada and Nigeria in terms of buying a home. The dynamics differ a lot. In Nigeria, rents are paid annually. So once in a year, January or mid-year, you can pay a rent and that's it. But in Canada, rents are paid monthly. And sometimes the monthly rent, 1 month could just be equivalent to the annual rent you pay in Nigeria. So things are different in Canada. But let's talk about support system for family life. Back home in Nigeria, raising a child could be a communal effort. You can afford the services of nannies, gardeners, chef, security or gatekeepers at an affordable rate. And then you see families having up to 5 or 4 employees and living big. And these employees can do more than their terms of reference most times. You can see a cleaner, you can see a nanny doubling as a cleaner in your home. You could see the gateman or gatekeepers washing your car, or mowing the lawns or the gardens in your home back home in Nigeria. And all these are done on the same salary scale. And they are grateful to have a job. But here in Canada, they do everything by yourself. You are your own chef, you are your own driver, you are your own security specialist, you are your own nanny. In fact, everybody have to brace themselves up in Canada. Otherwise, engaging those services mean that you have to pay them the minimum wage in your province. So it all depends on the province you live. If the minimum wage is $18, $13, $11, you are required by law to pay your nannies those basic minimum wage. So you can see why it's a luxury to maintain those kind of lifestyle here. So this is the difference, the cultural difference between Canada and Nigeria. And for some people that can afford those services, these people will come to your home and abide by their terms of references, no value adds. They will not leave manning your gate to go and clean your car. They would not leave cooking your food as a chef to go and wash the dishes or do laundry for you. So you can see it's 2 different strokes for 2 different folks. Let's talk about value system. Canadian value system treats men and women as equal. Quality of life are upheld for everyone. So they value life and they value the quality of life. So as a result of this, they make sure the air we breathe, they are not polluted. They are as clean as possible. Most times, arguments are resolved through meaningful conversations and mutual, compromise, sometimes, in Canada. Canadians are polite, respectful in most times, and considerate of your own opinion, and they show mutual respect for everyone. Canadians are called on first name basis, like Canadians honor time and are punctual. In Nigeria, let me start from the bottom. We have what is called African time. So if event is for 12 noon, just expect that guests will start arriving at 1 p.m. It is the norm. And elders are not called on first name basis. Otherwise, you will be tagged not well trained. So Mr. Paul Okafor becomes Uncle Paul, Sir Paul, or something more serious than that. Well, for politeness and mutual respect in Nigeria, it depends on the environment you find yourself, but it is not the norm there. Most times, arguments are not resolved through mutual compromise and respect of opinion. They are resolved through bullying, blackmail, and other ways more serious than what I've said. Quality of life in Nigeria is debatable and relative. I would not be shaking that table in this content, but Nigeria that you drive, and I have a friend that lives in Canada here whose husband was driving home and stray bullet caught him. He had a dream of coming to Canada, but today he's not in Canada because of stray bullet. So your life is a gamble, kind of. You could be kidnapped, you could be murdered or assassinated, but those are extreme cases, which I would not be talking about in this video. In Nigeria, women and men are not treated equal. Strictly a paternal society where it is assumed that men are more superior to women, sadly. So arguments are resolved through confrontation. Designations and titles are more emphasized in Nigeria. Let's talk about food. Food in Nigeria can be very exotic, spicy, and very expensive. In Canada, the food here, they are multicultural, they are continental, they are cheap, but not spicy as supposed to be. So, as Canadian immigrants, you make your choice what you will go with. Is it adapt to Canadian food or maintain your Nigerian food lifestyle and spend more? Choose your choice. Let's talk about language. Canada is multilingual and bilingual in nature. So French and English are the major languages spoken in Canada. Especially in some provinces, this stands out. But in Nigeria, we are monolingual, we are unilingual. English becomes our major national language. Though we have several native languages in Nigeria, English is the major language used in our schools, in our churches, in public gatherings, everywhere. Let's talk about job employment and engagement. The chances of having a job in Canada and living a decent life are higher in Canada than in Nigeria. For some people, though, for most people, Canada has what is called employment insurance when you meet certain work hours to buffer, or to supplement your family income in moments of job loss until you're able to stand on your feet again. Nigeria do not have employment insurance. Acquiring higher degrees in Canada is not what they pay you for. What they pay you for is your ability to do the job, your experience and skill. But in Nigeria, we just keep acquiring more certificates and more degrees. Let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare is literally free in Canada, paid with taxpayers' money. Here we are also free from malaria and typhoid, which is a recurrent sickness in Africa. As long as your treatment for other ailments are covered under the provincial healthcare program, then you have nothing to worry about. And you can be sure of top-notch healthcare system or service that is comparable globally. You can be sure of world-class healthcare in Canada. In Nigeria, healthcare is not subsidized. It's not free at all. but except for those that can afford health insurance through their work or through their employment, or they can privately buy one. Most times, for absence of quality healthcare in Nigeria, you see politicians and those that can afford jetting out to countries like India, UK, Germany, or even America to seek quality healthcare. So thank you for watching today's video about cultural differences, Nigeria versus Canada, my personal perspective. I do hope you gained something from this video today. See you on the next one. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share our video. Bye.